March 8th, 1817. What does this represent? The day that the stock market was created, and who knew the impact that it was going to have on each and every one of our lives. The stock market affects everyone. You, me, our parents, our grandparents, and our soon-to-be children if you don't already have some. It affects economic growth. It shows us how well or bad the economy is doing. And it affects pretty much everything that we do in our lives that in regards to buying and selling goods. My dad was a stockbroker and still is, and ever since I've been about 6 or 7 years old, ever since I could remember, it's always been very important to understand what the stock market is. Now, why is that? Because of the impact that it has in our lives, and just knowing what our options are when it comes to the stock market are important to each and every one of us. In my speech, I will talk about what the stock market is, how the stock market affects our everyday lives, and how you can get involved in the stock market. First, we must understand what the stock market is. The stock market is where shares of a publicly listed company are able to be exchanged, sold, and bought from the companies themselves and the people who are involved in the stock market. The stocks work through a system of exchanges, meaning that you and I buy, sell, trade, as well as the companies do, for shares of a company. When you own a share of a company, that means that you are entitled to their profits, not necessarily their assets, because that is not true, just their profits. According to NerdWallet, stocks are priced according to their supply and demand, meaning that the more that a stock is demanded, the more that it's going to be priced greater. Because obviously if more people want it, you can make more money off of it for those people who are willing to pay for it. This means that people buy and sell stocks either from each other or the company, no matter what the price is. It just depends on supply and demand. Stocks allow you to own part of the company that you stock of, meaning that those profits are entitled to you, but it is also ultimately up to the company to determine when they're going to give you those stocks, if they're going to give you those stocks, and how often they're going to give you those stocks. Secondly, we know what the stock market is now, but how does it affect your life? So the stock market is an implication of how the economy is doing, which means that if the stock market is doing well, then we can imply that the economy is also doing well. If the economy is doing well, we can imply that people are buying and selling goods from each other and our economy is working the way that it should be. But if the stock market is going down, that also is an implication, meaning that people are not buying and selling as much as they should be, which also affects small businesses, closes small businesses, or can cause other people to be laid off of their jobs, furloughed, and this ultimately just leads to a downward spiral, as we are also seeing right now with COVID-19 outbreak. According to an article by The Balance, the stock market prices determine how well the economy is doing because, for example, Apple. If Apple's selling a lot of iPhones, their profits are doing well, then obviously their stock is going to increase because of their profits, which means that the more people want to buy it because of how well they're doing. The prices of these stocks affect the growth of the economy, which also affects the prices of their products, because if a company is doing well, they're going to place their products higher because their supply is greater. But if a company is doing bad, then they're going to decrease the price of their products so that more people will want to buy it. It's just simple supply and demand of how it affects our lives. It affects a lot of the prices at which we buy things, which is important because obviously as consumers, we want to be able to buy things at the best prices. And the stock market is a good indication of what those products and goods will be sold for. Lastly, how are you going to be able to get involved into the stock market? There are many ways. There are podcasts, there are articles, there are actual apps on the stock market. So when thinking about the stock market, I know you may not think about it a lot. You can just start by listening to podcasts today. I listen to Robinhood Snacks on Spotify, and that has helped me so much to understand the different companies on the stock market and how they affect us and how it ultimately affects everything in everyday lives and how our futures are going to be shaped. Another way is you can also start by buying and trading stocks through Robinhood, through Ameritrade. It just honestly depends on what you prefer. There are many ways to get involved, but to start, you should honestly just start to track the stock market and see how well or bad the stocks are doing to understand it and where you want to get involved. So understanding the stock market is very important because the stock market is an indexes of business, which also gives us an implication of how the stock market is doing. And that's important to all of us because we all want to know how the prices and goods of prices of goods are changed and fluctuate based on the businesses and how they're doing. The stock market is probably the last thing that you think about when you wake up, or even if you think about it before you go to sleep, or ever during your day. But it is very crucial in our lives, how it affects the economy, how it tells us about the economy. And getting involved is important to you, to me, and to everyone, so that you do not miss out on something that's very essential to us. Thank you for listening.